Paul Mashatile has today been very critical of members of the Democratic Alliance who serve in the Government of National Unity's cabinet. That's after the party decided to vote against the adoption last week of the budget framework during a vote in Parliament. Mashatile basically saying that he would be embarrassed if he ultimately had to implement policies or work with a budget that he would have voted against. While all of this is going on, ANC leaders are going to meet this week to discuss the current tensions with the DA in the Government of National Unity. The DA itself was late last week due to hold similar discussions. Let's get the view now of Dr. Harlan Cloete, who's a research fellow at the University of the Free State, also founder of the Great Governance ZA podcast. A very good evening to you, sir. Welcome to SABC News. So you've got Paul Mashatile saying that for the DA, it cannot stay in a government of national unity where it rejects the budget. For now, the Democratic Alliance is not budging on its position. So is this then the kiss of death for the GNU?
Good evening to you and good evening also to the viewers. Look, it's still early days. I think if we just take a step back and about how we got to this government of national unity, it was formed in about 2 weeks. My colleagues in the Netherlands and established democracies tell me where they've got experience of these coalitions, it can take anything between 7 and 8 months to iron out these differences and to find out whether there is a match. Now, the ANC have been at the polar ends of society at loggerheads for a very long time. And it's for the first time that they're now having to sit around the table to craft out strategies and a plan and a budget about how it takes the country forward. So this is early days. I'm not too worried about the differences. I'm just warning the viewers as well to say this was crafted in 2 weeks. So maybe some things were not thought out as thorough as it should have been thought out. Now, the DA, in my reading of this, saying that they differ on one or two matters, aspects of the budget. The one is the VAT, and the other one is on economic policy. And you know, we are not very clear. If we look at the economic policies where we are today, that if we look at the levels of poverty, of unemployment and inequality in our country, then we must say that there is something wrong with our economic policy and we need a reset on that, because it would appear and the stats support that, the evidence support that South Africans have become poorer.
I take your point, Dr. Harlan Cloete, that there may be these disagreements, shall we say, between the ANC and the DA might just be a teething problems, but the GNU will be a year old in the next month or so. How much time is enough time for them to find a way in which, even when they disagree, they can disagree constructively without often the very public displays where you can tell that there's very little love lost? And that does spook a population where, for the first time since 1994, we're seeing this sort of arrangement. It is unsettling to the ordinary people and even to business.
I think South Africans want stability. You know, economic stability. South Africans wants their place in the sun. And now South Africans are looking at this GNU because the voters have clearly said that we do not want a single party to govern. Now, I've got no doubt that there are factions within the ANC as well as factions within the DA. There are factions within the ANC who do not really want the DA around the table, who are more comfortable with the EFF, MK and the ANC joining forces and implementing their policies. There are factions within the DA who do not really want this GNU to work, that says that we are better outside of that. Now, the DA have got a good track record of being in opposition. It's difficult to move from opposition to government, but I think it's very difficult for the ANC as well to accept that it no longer has this majority, but it still continues to act as if it has a majority. And so it's give and take in negotiations.
Right.
It's compromise. It's wise compromise. It's trying to find one another. But if you look at the ANC has steamrolled a lot of its policies through with very little regard, it would appear, to the voice or the opinion of the DA and the other GNU partners. So I think there's this public face of the GNU, and then there's this darker side that we are not privy to as ordinary South Africans.
Do you think, or how real do you think is the possibility of the Democratic Alliance walking out of this arrangement? And if it did, what sort of reconfiguration would have to take place? What would be easiest to do? Because I raised that question precisely because the EFF and the MKP, for example, who've been touted as possible replacements for the DA in the GNU, are also not fans of the VAT. When there were negotiations, for example, around putting together this coalition government, they had made a request including that the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa must step aside. And the ANC said that is simply a bridge too far for them to cross.
You know, I think I'm not quite sure why the ANC is so stuck on this VAT and this increase, because the commissioner has on a public platform voiced another view about how we can save money, where we can cut, etc. So I'm not quite sure what is this. If it is this posturing, if it is ego at work here to say that we will not budge on that, because economists have proposed other alternative means to save money and to make sure that we generate money for the state. So I'm not quite sure why they are so stuck on that. Now, the DA, on the other hand, says that it wants to save South Africa from this doomsday coalition. Now, some would read in that. We say it's like in '94, this swart gevaar, that if the ANC and the EFF and the MK should get into power, it would be the end of South Africa. I'm not sure that I agree with that sentiment necessarily, And so we've got checks and balances within our political system to make sure that is not the case. But the EFF have been very strong to say that they will not join the GNU if the DA is still there, because the ideology is so far apart. I think what is desperately needed now is pragmatic approach to governance instead of ideology. What is best for South Africa, and can our politicians show the maturity? And then on the other hand, where is the voice of civil society? We've now heard business writing a letter to the president and he dismissed them. Where is the voice of civil society organizations? Where is the academic community in terms of voicing their concern? They are silent. And so it's almost like the civil society sitting back, spectators in observing how the politicians fight it out. I think civil society organizations, especially the academic community, as well as organizations, must find their voice and lobby and advocate so much harder than is currently the case.
Dr. Harlan Cloete, good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time on SABC News tonight.